Oh, no, 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 no.
Oh, there's a river that winds on forever. I'm gonna see where it leads. Oh, there's a mountain that no man has mounted. I'm gonna stand on the peak. Out there's a world that calls for me, girl, heading into the unknown. No time for wondering why I'm a wandering on when I'm thus alone. To the ends of the earth, would you follow me? There's a world meant for us to see. To the ends of the earth, would you follow me? If you won't, then I must say goodbye to thee. Oh, there's an island where all things are silent. I'm gonna whistle a tune. Oh, there's a desert where size can't be measured. I'm gonna count all the dunes. Out there's a world that calls for me, girl, heading out into the unknown. Wayfaring strangers and all kinds of dangers. Please don't say I'm going alone. To the ends of the earth, would you follow me? There's a world meant for us to see. To the ends of the earth, would you follow me? If you won't, then I must say goodbye to thee. Oh, why you look so sad? Tears are in your eyes. Come on, come to me now. And don't be afraid to cry. Let me see you through. Cause I've been on the dark side too. When the night falls on you and you don't know what to do, nothing you confess will make me love you less. I'll stand by you. I'll stand by you. Won't let nobody hurt you. I'll stand by you. I'll stand by you. Won't let nobody hurt you. I'll stand by you. Go. If you're mad, get mad. Don't hold it all inside. Come on, talk to me now. Hey, what you've got to hide. I get angry too, 'cause I'm human like you. When you're at the crossroads and you don't know what to do, let me come along. 'Cause even if you're wrong, I'll stand by you. I'll stand by you. Won't let nobody hurt you. I'll stand by you. Take me to your darkest hour, and I'll never desert you. I'll stand by you. I'll stand by you. Won't let nobody hurt you. I'll stand by you. Ooh, ooh. If you're seeing black and you don't know where to go, and the pain is seeping slowly into your bones, there's not a whole lot I can do, but I can sit with you in this cold, dark room. There are no magic words that can take away the hurt. The sun may be hiding and there's no silver lining. There's not a lot I can do, but I can sit with you in this cold, dark room. If you're lost, you can look and you will find me. Time after time. If you fall, I will catch you. I'll be waiting. Time after time. If you're lost, you can look and you will find me. Time after time. If you fall, I will catch you. I'll be waiting. Time after time. Time after time. Ooh, 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 ooh. No, I can't put together what life's blown apart. And I can't fill the hole burning in your heart. I can't make that gray sky turn blue, but I can sit with you in this cold, dark room. There are no magic words that can take away the hurt. The sun may be hiding and there's no silver lining. There's not a lot I can do, but I can sit with you in this cold, dark room. Yeah, I can sit with you in this cold, dark room. If you're lost, you can look and you will find me time after time. If you fall, I will catch you, I'll be waiting time after time. If you're lost, you can look and you will find me time after time. If you fall, I will catch you, I will be waiting time after time, time after time, time after time, time after time, time after time. Ooh, I wanted you for life, you and me in the wind. Never thought there'd come a time that our story would end.
Excuse me. Hello, all. We're so glad that you're here. And we're going to ask you to just start making your way to your seats. The program is going to start in just a few minutes. So if you find your seat and get settled in, we have a great afternoon for you.
It's hard to understand, but I guess I have to try. It's not easy to say goodbye. I remember all those great times we had, so many memories, some good and some bad. Yes, and through it all, those memories will last forever. For all the joy we shared, all the time we had to spend. And if I had one wish, I'd want forever back again. To look into your eyes and hold you when you cry. It's not easy to say goodbye. I remember all those good times we had. So many memories, some good and some bad. Yes, and through it all, those memories will last forever. There's peace in where you are, maybe all I need to know. And if I listen to my heart, I'll hear your laughter once more. And so I have to say, I'm glad you came my way. It's not easy to say goodbye. It's not easy to say goodbye. It's not easy to say goodbye.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. One last call that our program is about to get started. Well, good morning to you all. Welcome to this year's Wings for Widows Fundraising Luncheon. We're so glad that you're here with us, or for so many watching from across America. Thank you for your support today. Well, my name's Lauren Lemanchek. I am an anchor and a reporter at KARE 11, and I first learned about Wings for Widows through a dear friend, Cassie Letson, who is here, who works for Wings for Widows. And until I talked to her and talked more to Chris Bentley, I had no idea of the need for the type of services this organization provides, the education, the counseling, the financial counseling. And as I learned about it, I thought, of course, this is such a key time in people's lives, and they need all of that support. And so I'm so glad that this organization exists for people in our community. And I'm so glad to be here with you all today. It's my absolute privilege and honor to be your mistress of ceremonies today. This event, of course, would not be possible without our sponsors. We want to definitely thank them. Our gold sponsors today are Beth Ulrich with Ulrich Real Estate, Front Burner Accounting, and Fuzzy Duck. Our silver sponsors are Wings Financial, Joe Nelson with Coldwell Banker Realty, and Hank Scherf. And our bronze sponsors are Tamara Block, attorney at law, the Bolton Group, KTIS 98.5, and Jerry Harrison. Let's have a round of applause for those sponsors. You know, we also want to acknowledge that this luncheon coincides with the first day of Rosh Hashanah, an important holiday for those in our community who observe the Jewish New Year. So we extend our warm wishes to those celebrating, and we appreciate that so many have chosen to observe this significant day. So to those present and those absent, we hope this season brings you both joy and renewal. Now, many in this room have either themselves or know someone who's lost something special, someone special. Maybe it's a spouse, one of your parents, a sibling, even a child, or someone else close to you. Here's the facts. 100% of us die. And most of the time, those deaths leave behind survivors who need help. For some of those survivors, it's a fight for survival. So before we begin, let's take a moment to remember those we've lost, and especially for those of us who are mourning a recent loss. We honor them, and we're thankful for the privilege of having known and loved them. Thank you. Well, many of us know someone who has been widowed, but most of us don't have any real understanding of what widowhood entails unless you've experienced it. There's the debilitating grief and anguish, the fear and uncertainty, and the financial and legal challenges facing most newly widowed men and women. And they combine to create just the most stressful of all life events. So we have two objectives today. The first is to learn more about widowhood and this Twin Cities nonprofit providing essential counseling and education services to those going through it. That is Wings for Widows. And that leads me to our second objective here tonight. We want to ensure that Wings for Widows can continue to provide those services. To that end, our goal here today is to raise $100,000. So if we come together, can we do that? I hear a woo. I need a little more enthusiasm behind that. Can we do that? Absolutely. Yes, of course we can if we work together. We can make sure that this service is available for widowed men and women. You can donate right now by texting widows to 50155. It's fast, easy, and secure, so you can start right now. You can also bid on one of our 8 Getaway for Good vacation packages. These trips are phenomenal, everyone. Lake Tahoe, Banff, Myrtle Beach, Portugal, and many more. Now, you know that bidding opened at 11 o'clock. It closes at 12:30. Still plenty of time to get in on the action. You got that QR code right there at your table. So if you just scan that, that'll help you get started. Also, if you're here with us today, you have been entered into the grand prize drawing, and this is a good one. A lucky winner is going to go to Grandview Lodge. Now, I'm not a math person. This is why we have all of these financial professionals here, but even I know that you improve your chances of winning if you buy more tickets. So let's work on doing that. Go ahead, purchase more tickets. Cassie and Crystal will be stopping by your table a little later. We're going to have that drawing at 12:30. And finally, there are pledge cards and envelopes on your table. Together, whether you're here or watching from home, we can make a difference by supporting Wings for Widows today. Now it is my honor to introduce Chris Bentley, the founder and executive director of Wings for Widows. Let's welcome Chris.
Thank you, Lauren. And good morning, everyone. It's great to see so many smiling faces. We did this breakfast last year and everybody was half asleep when we started the program. So it's great to see you all wide-eyed in here. We have about 150 that have registered to tune in. So to you, thank you for doing so. I'm sure there are other things you could be doing this fall, but thank you for being with us, and all of you, thank you for being here. You know, former Facebook COO Sheryl Sandberg, she lost her husband Dave in May of 2015. In her bestseller, Option B, Sheryl shares her experience and her unimaginable grief. Losing a spouse is traumatic and disruptive. Some recover, some don't. The loss of a spouse is the nastiest curveball that life can throw at someone. In Ms. Sandberg's case, with a net worth exceeding $1 billion in 2015, she did not suffer financial crisis with the loss of her spouse. Sheryl states, as traumatic as my family's experience has been, I'm well aware of how fortunate we are to have a wide support system and access to financial resources few have. I loved her book, which is about facing adversity and building resilience. It's not about overcoming the financial trauma of loss. In fact, Wings for Widows wrote that book. That's because for most widowed individuals, a financial crisis must be managed in addition to the trauma. Dealing with the numbing and unbearable grief would be enough, but most must right their financial ship before they can even address this grief. I'm not a widower, thank God. So I can't even imagine having to tuck away grief while dealing with the mortgage, the bills, the kids, possibly going back to work, relocating, all the things that so many must do. But many of you here and watching today have lived it. I'm so sorry for your loss. Let me share these three facts with you. AgeWave reports that only 14% of widowed say that they were making financial decisions by themselves before their spouse died. Now, do the math, 86% report having to do so for the first time in their lives. Secondly, on average, a widow's income drops by 37% in the 3 years after her spouse's death. When you consider that a third of all widowed adults spend at least 30% of their income on housing, well, you begin to understand the bigger problem. And lastly, 69% say that the hardest financial challenge in widowhood is becoming the sole decision maker, followed by adjusting to a loss in income and navigating financial and legal paperwork. To me, it sounds like the perfect recipe for financial crisis. No experience managing the practical matters of life alone, and not enough income to pay the bills. That's financial crisis. And that's why Wings for Widows' mission is critical to so many experiencing widowhood. You see, in 2017, I realized that many newly widowed people did not have access to the professional advice that they so desperately needed when they needed it the most. Nothing like Wings for Widows existed then. Nothing like us exists still today. And this is true for approximately 850,000 people every year, that do not have a professional network that have nowhere to go for that professional advice. And it turns out widowhood is a minefield of potential missteps and really bad outcomes. Here's an example. Wendy's spouse, Walt, he had a private consulting business. Wendy wasn't involved in it at all. When Walt got sick, she urged him to wind down the business. Before he died, he assured her he had. You know where this is going, don't you? I hear you. However, about the time that small $50,000 term life insurance benefit check arrived, she discovered that Walt hadn't been completely honest with her. He had not closed his business down, and worse, when he discovered a post office box stuffed with overdraft and late notices and demand letters from creditors. We'll put the whole ugly mess to rest. She used the only money she had, that insurance money, to pay off all of Walt's debts. This was unfortunate because she wasn't legally responsible for any of those debts. Walt's estate was. She desperately needed that $50,000 for other things, but it was all gone. We see examples like this every day. It's heartbreaking when they get to us after they've made these decisions. The other side of the coin, however, is that many do find us before they make such mistakes. Our volunteer coaches, we have a whole table 7 back here, of volunteer coaches. So thank you, coaches. This is about you. Our volunteer coaches, they guide them to financial stability, avoiding the common and costly pitfalls that come with the lack of professional advice. Wings for Widows has helped transform lives by empowering the widowed individuals we serve. I have the best job in the world because it's the most rewarding work to help someone in such crisis, the lowest point in their lives, to get to a place of calm and confidence, stability, and independence. So this time I want to recognize my staff who are here, Nicole, Crystal, and Cassie, wherever you are. Just wave or stand. Please, a round of applause for the staff. Thank you for all you do every day to help the clients that we serve. I also want to recognize, we have some board members in the room, and I know there's 3 or 4 watching from afar. So a shout out to you guys. But would you please stand or be recognized here, board members that are in attendance? I think 3. I know, thank you. That's right. Once a board member, always a board member, Alex, you're right. So I think we can roll the video. Thank you, everyone.
Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Michelle Neff Hernandez, CEO and founder of Soaring Spirits International. It's a pleasure to be with you virtually today in support of Wings for Widows annual luncheon. I first just want to say how grateful I am that you're all in the room, that you're sitting in this seat because you care about the cause of widowhood. Perhaps you have a specific widow person in your life that has inspired you to be in the seat today. Maybe you're widowed yourself and you understand personally how impactful the work of Wings for Widows is. Maybe you've interacted with Chris Bentley, who is a very passionate advocate for this work, and he has found a way to get you in this seat so that you can learn more about what Wings for Widows does in the world. For whatever reason you find yourself sitting in the seat today, I hope that you're able to get a sense of how impactful the work of Wings for Widows is. One of the things that Soaring Spirits is able to do is research around resilience in the widowed experience. It has been one of our key findings that when widowed people feel confident about their financial situation, it improves their lives and raises their resilience levels across the board. Whether they have been left with a large amount of money that they're struggling to manage, whether they have lost half of their income or their entire income when their person dies. Of course, there's a huge gamut of experience. But what we know for sure is that when people feel confident about the tools they have and the resources that are available for managing their money, their resilience increases. We like to think about how we can take a small amount of effort that a widowed person might have available, use that in the best way possible to double that amount of resilience, right? And then continue to grow that resilience over and over through the use of tools and resources like the ones that Wings for Widows offers. So the work you're doing today is super important. The work of Wings for Widows is changing lives. And because you're sitting in the seat today, you're changing lives as well. Really, truly grateful for all of the people in the world who care about the cause of widowhood. Widowed people value their allies. And as a widowed person, I thank you for being an ally. Wishing you all a really meaningful and impactful time together, and excited to hear how well supported Wings for Widows will be because you're sitting in the seats today. Thank you so much.
All right, what an important message from Michelle Neff Hernandez. How's everyone doing? Doing okay? I see if salads are being served right now. So as you start to enjoy your lunch, just want to remind you to give and give generously, please. We have a big goal to hit today. We're making progress, but we have a way to go. And if you're watching on Zoom, that includes you too. Now, if you haven't registered for our online auction yet, go ahead and scan that QR code. That'll get you started there. And you have to register to bid on these fabulous vacation packages that are up for bid right now. A reminder, bidding ends at 12:30. And one of you in this room is going to win the grand prize drawing. Tickets for that are also on sale till 12:30. So get them while you can. We'll be announcing the winner later in the program. And now it is my honor to introduce Megan Kopka, CFP, the board chair of Modern Widows Club. It's an international organization which is dedicated to empowering widows to thrive and to lead with resilience. Modern Widows Club provides crucial support, resources, and importantly, community for widows. And with Megan's leadership, it continues to make a profound impact on the lives of countless men and women facing this difficult transition. With almost 2 decades of experiences in the financial services industry, Megan's a true leader in both the financial and the widowed communities. She's also a volunteer financial coach for Wings for Widows. So please join me in welcoming Megan Kopka.
Thank you, everyone. As a longtime participant and advocate and now chair of the Modern Widows Club, I understand the inside and out of what it means to give holistic support that is crucial to widows. The Modern Widows Club identified 7 pillars of living widowhood in a healthy way to build resilience to move widows from grief to growth. One of those pillars is financial and crucial. So when I speak to widows, I tell them they need 2 professionals in their corner, a grief counselor and a CFP. The financial and emotional are hitting you almost immediately, straight away. And so that's exactly what Wings for Widows does, is they pair certified financial planners, the gold star in our industry, with widows. Not only do they find the CFPs who volunteer for the organization, they also train them on the unique skill set that you need to help widows go through financial crisis. I also advise audiences that it's really hard to explain widowhood. Widowhood is ineffable. There are no words. As introduced, I am a certified financial planner. I am the proud volunteer at Wings for Widows. And I am also a registered life planner, which was crucial in my own walk. Not the letters that you're used to seeing in our industry, but it is a financial designation. And I'm also a widow. So I'll tell you, there's no better place for me to be than here today on what would have been my beloved Keith's 56th birthday. I'll say that widows face overwhelming tasks, often alone, and I want to give you a glimpse into what that pain looks like today and hopefully bust some myths while we're here. 35, my life changed when I became a caregiver. Dr. Bedlack at the Duke ALS Clinic gave us our diagnosis on April 20th, 2010. And when he asked us if we had any questions, we sat there silent and in shock. And as he's turning to leave, I squeaked out through that bowling ball of fire in my throat. I'm like, wait, wait, do you have any literature for children? Because I knew once we were delivered that life-shattering news that I was going to have to go home and explain that to my son, Bruce, who was 14 at the time, and my daughter, Jaden, who was 10. So that moment in the clinic, and then later that day in our living room, are salient moments in my life. I learned a lot of personal and financial lessons through the next 4 years as a caregiver. I lived this realization that we all know to be true, that a lot of us, especially us moms, don't want to believe, but you cannot protect your children from the hardships of life. If I could have changed it for them, I would have. That's a really, really tough thing to do, is to know that you're going to go through this grief, but to also know that it's going to be witnessed by the people that you care the most about. So I will also share with you, there is a term called mama bear that I've leaned into that I now know as fierce love. Part of my skill set is to be politely or pleasantly persistent, also known as tenacious. It doesn't always come across as polite when someone's telling you you can't have the medical care that your person needs. So that's where I refer back to fierce love. And that tenacity served us well. Keith was a patient. He was such an amazing, really good man. And I was the prepared planner, ready to go into action for whatever it was that he needed. And I'll share with you something else. Do you know 30% of caregivers actually die before their loved one does? So here I am as a mother, as a planner, knowing this fact. And so I had to go ahead with my estate plan and think of who's going to take care of a quadriplegic. And then teenagers who are already kind of prickly are grieving, like who's going to do that? So my mom and dad stepped forward, but it was a hard conversation. I had to think about the proverbial bus coming and plan for all these things in the future that I didn't know what was going to be. So I'll tell you, it's 4 years of imagining widowhood. And all I can say when I tell you this dark part of my story is that widowhood is truly unimaginable. I went through what I can only describe now as an identity crisis. And how could it not be? You go from we to me. And so who you see here today, I was just absolutely shredded. So I share this with you because I know now you can see the scars in my life, but you never saw the wounds. And what's incredible about Wings for Widows is they come in and meet us in triage. They are there to service those wounds. Look, the IRS does not give you a year off, right? COBRA decisions have to be made in 60 days. Yes, that's attached to work. The average age of a widow is actually 59. A lot of us are still working. So when you picture a widow, do not think about Tweety Bird's granny. Think about me at 38 years old. Think about what it looks like to be 59 and widowed, so close to retirement and possibly putting away a whole bunch of money for the first time after you're done paying those college payments. Are we prepared? And is there any preparation? If you get nothing else from today, be as prepared as you can, but there's no preparing for this. So I knew Keith was dying, right? And I know now that it takes a long time for your neuroplasticity in your brain to actually accept that. It takes a lot of time. It takes a community of support. And we were very fortunate to have a lot of that. I learned something else, that the Sanskrit meaning of the word widow means empty vessel or destitute. And I felt like I was in destitute, that I lacked everything and an empty vessel that needs to be poured into. So to a degree, grief requires isolation, and yet widows need a lot of support. And that's why Wings for Widows is so critical, that triage phase for widows that are facing this financial upheaval. I mean, let's face it, most people, honestly, I think I just saw something that they would rather talk about their political affiliation than to talk about money. That was a poll done in the United States. In today's environment, we'd rather talk about politics than money. And so you can imagine when you're playing 52 pickup after your spouse has died with your entire financial life, what that exactly looks like. We don't want to talk about money, probably more comfortable to talk about death than money. So pairing that CFP with the widow is crucial. And today we can help. So financial planning like Wings for Widows helps widows avoid unnecessary struggles. And widows need to know that they don't have to go it alone. We have a death denying culture, and it's really, really hard out there as a fresh widow. So here's some fun facts, if you haven't had enough already. The pandemic, it was a widow maker. I also know that charitable donations are down since the pandemic. And the third fun fact, lots of pressure for you guys. I know everyone here can afford to give more than they were intending to give. So today, I ask you in honor of Keith to place another 0 on your planned giving today. And if you genuinely cannot afford to do that, please add $56 for his 56th birthday. Keith's legacy lives on through me, through our children, and his legacy will also live on through the support for Wings for Widows, so we can continue to empower and uplift widows moving forward. Thank you for being here, for your generosity, and your commitment to being a widow supporter. Happy birthday, baby.
Well, that was incredibly powerful and just an incredible reminder of why we're here and why raising this money is so important today. I like that term, fierce love. I'm going to keep that one. Well, thank you, Megan, for that. And next, it's a privilege to introduce Alexandra Armstrong, who is a trailblazer in the financial planning industry. She has a career spanning 40 years. Ms. Armstrong was the first woman in the United States to earn the Certified Financial Planner designation. And ever since then, she's just been a relentless advocate for women in finance. She recently received the prestigious Lifetime Achievement Award from Investment News for her contributions to the profession and for her dedication to mentoring the next generation of financial planners. As a widow herself, Ms. Armstrong co-authored the 6th edition of On Your Own, a guide for widows navigating financial independence, further cementing her commitment to widow education. Let's watch.
Good afternoon. Thank you for inviting me to speak at this special event. My dad died when I was 8 and my mother was 48. Taking care of him depleted the family's resources. In fact, 2 years before he died, my mother went to work for the first time as a clerk in a dress store to make ends meet. After Dad died, my mother and I lived on income that came from veterans benefits, Social Security, and her meager salary. My grandfather had set up a small trust fund that provided some extra money, which often made it possible for us to get through the month. After a while, Mom noticed the checks were smaller and their payment was sporadic. Because she lacked financial knowledge herself, she asked Dad's brother to look into it for her. Unfortunately, he found she had been the victim of white-collar crime. The trustee of the fund had borrowed the money to pay his own expenses. By the time my uncle discovered what had happened, there was little money left. Although I was young when it happened, I understood how this impacted our lives. When I was older, I realized if Mom had known more about investments, she might have been able to avoid or at least mitigate this disaster. As a result, I resolved that I would learn as much as I could about how money worked, so I would have financial control of my own life. As fate would have it, I ended up in the investment field and was one of the first female certified financial planners in the country. Because of my early experiences, my mission has been to help women learn more about their investments. As I have told my clients, Don't confuse a lack of knowledge with a lack of ability to learn. The more women know about finances, the less apt they are to make mistakes. The old adage, money can't buy happiness, might be true, but I believe that having enough money certainly can make life easier. Because of my desire to help women, 30 years ago, I wrote a book for widows, now in its 6th edition, titled On Your Own, A Widow's Guide to Emotional and Financial Well-Being. I wrote the book with a psychologist who was a widow, a client, and a friend. Our basic premise is that a widow's emotional recovery from the loss of a spouse is tied to gaining control of her financial life. The underlying theme is if you can figure out your financial situation, ideally before you're widowed, then you'll be able to focus on your grief and deal with it more effectively. I wrote the book because it was clear to me that the advice I was giving widows was going in one ear and out the other, since they were still dealing with the shock of losing their spouse. I thought if I could write a book that they could refer back to chapter by chapter, that would help their recovery. To help the reader better identify with the content, we wove the stories of 4 hypothetical widows who ranged in age from 42 to 75, who lived in different parts of the country with different circumstances. I think there's a tendency to lump all widows and widowers into one category. Of course, that's not true. There are young widows and older widows. There are those with dependent children, those with older children, and those without children. Some widows have been very independent, others more dependent. The marriage might have been a happy one, or only happy when viewed in retrospect. One of the biggest differences is some spouses die after a long illness and others die suddenly. If the spouse dies unexpectedly, it takes longer for the widow to recover. In my case, my husband deteriorated over 10 years, so I had more than sufficient time to prepare for his demise, particularly since I handled our financial affairs. I experienced what is called anticipatory grief, where mentally I prepared myself for the inevitable. It wasn't a question of if, but rather when. However, I understand a sudden death is much harder to handle, particularly initially. So professionally and personally, I'm well aware of the problems widows and widowers face and why I'm so enthusiastic about the wonderful work Chris Bentley and his team are doing for widowed individuals throughout this country. I first learned about Wings for Widows as a board member of the Foundation for Financial Planning, which has been giving grants to Wings for Widows, totaling $111,000 over the past 4 years. Our foundation's mission is to help people gain control of their financial lives with the help of pro bono certified financial planners. Since Wings for Widows' mission is to provide personal financial coaching and education to help men and women reclaim financial stability and independence, their mission and ours is aligned. I am very impressed with what Chris has been able to accomplish since he founded Wings for Widows in 2018. The materials his organization supplies to widows are very valuable, but even more valuable is the pro bono advice provided by financial planners who address the individual financial issues a widow or widower is facing, because every situation is unique. I'm sure you all have visited the Wings for Widows website, but if you haven't, please do so. What I have found most amazing is how Chris and his team have been able to help so many people with such limited resources. The organization's finances are transparent. In 2023, they helped nearly 1,000 widowed individuals, men and women, with an annual budget of less than $300,000. Think about how many more widows and widowers they would be able to reach if they had more money. I think we all have relatives and or friends who have become widowed and would have benefited from receiving sound, objective financial advice. This is probably why you attended this luncheon, to help raise awareness and to raise some money for this wonderful organization, the only such organization in the country. More than 850,000 people are widowed every year and don't have a professional advisor to help them. So I ask you to consider making a tax-deductible gift to Wings for Widows, because they need your help to meet the growing demand for their valuable services. There are pledge cards on your table. While any amount you can afford to give to support Chris's work is welcome, think of making a meaningful donation, such as $5,000, payable over the next 5 years. That's $1,000 a year, which works out to only $19 a week, as much as you spend on a lunch. I've already made this pledge myself and urge you to do the same. Thank you for your time and attention.
Well, she's an inspiring person, isn't she? And with such an important message and an important reminder to give. I'm going to remind you again, we still have raffle tickets on sale for another 30 minutes. Enter to win that fabulous trip to Grandview Lodge. All proceeds, of course, help support Wings for Widows. That's a $400 value on that trip for just $20 a ticket, or $50 for 3 of them. Also, you have that QR code. You can still bid in our online auction for another 30 minutes. And then there are some silent auction tables in the back. Make sure to check those out if you're here in the room. That also is available for another 30 minutes, all for a fantastic cause. We're getting our lunch now. We're going to take just a brief break, and then we're going to come back with our keynote speakers. So enjoy your lunch. Think about making those donations, and we'll be back in just a few.
Ba-da-dum. You know some doors can't be opened, and words can't heal a heart that's broken. Hold me in your arms is what you really need. But in the meantime, you can light a candle for me and let the flame light up the room like my smile used to do, and let the memories begin to fill your mind. Don't be afraid to say my name and begin to share your pain, and remember I'm right by your side. No, we can't go back to the way it used to be. But in the meantime, you can light a candle for me. When I passed away, the world stopped turning, but the love we share won't stop burning. I know one day we'll meet again, and there won't be a missing piece. But in the meantime, you can light a candle for me. my smile used to do, and let the memories begin to fill your mind. Don't be afraid to say my name and begin to share your pain. And remember, I'm right by your side. No, we can't go back to the way it used to be. But in the meantime, you can light a candle for me. No, we can't go back to the way it used to be. But in the meantime, you can light a candle for me. Sometimes in our lives, we all have pain, we all have sorrow, but if we are wise, we know that there's always tomorrow. Lean on me when you're not strong, and I'll be your friend. I'll help you carry on, for it won't be long. I'm gonna need somebody to lean on. So please swallow your pride if I have things you need to borrow, for no one can fill those of your needs that you won't let show. You just call on the sister when you need a hand. We all need somebody to lean on. I just might have a problem that you'd understand. We all need somebody to lean on. So lean on me when you're not strong, and I'll be your friend. I'll help you carry on, and for it won't be long till I'm gonna need somebody to lean on. This town keeps buzzing, it looks the same. It's been a while since they said your name. Yes, I know it seems like the world has moved on. But my heart still remembers every little thing. Your eyes, your smile, your laugh, your love. Where it felt when you held me, oh, my heart still remembers it. Where you'll always be. They still a pulse through my veins with every new heartbeat. Sometimes the pain goes from flames down to ember, but my heart still remembers. Yes, my heart still remembers every little thing. Your eyes, your smile, your laugh, your love, the way you felt when you held me. Oh, my heart still remembers. It's where you'll always be. The spirit pulses through my veins with every new heartbeat. Sometimes the pain goes from flames down to embers, but my heart still remembers. Sometimes the pain goes from flames down to embers, but my heart still remembers.
Well, thank you to Mickey Spear. Mickey, you are incredible. We have been enjoying this music so much, just absolutely beautiful.
So sweet, thank you.
And I hope everyone's enjoying their lunch. I thought it was delicious. We're going to get started again because right now it is such an honor and such a treat to be able to introduce today's keynote speakers. If you are from Minnesota, I don't need to introduce them because Pat Miles and Don Shelby are two legendary figures in American broadcasting. They are Hall of Fame broadcasters. As you know, they spent decades being trusted voices in Minnesota, delivering the news with integrity, wisdom, and compassion. I was thrilled to meet them today. I know Pat Miles is a trailblazer in our industry. It's hard to think about this now, but she was known for her groundbreaking work as one of the first female primetime news anchors in the country. So folks like me owe kind of a lot to Pat Miles. She's also the author of Before All Is Said and Done, which is a deeply personal guide on preparing for life's transitions, which she will be signing after today's luncheon. And Don Shelby is a Peabody and Emmy Award-winning journalist. He is revered for his investigative work and dedication to the craft of storytelling. He too is an author. His book, The Season Never Ends, chronicles his passion for basketball and lessons learned on the court. They are lifetime colleagues and friends. Pat and Don have a remarkable ability to connect with their audience, which we are going to experience today, both locally and across the nation. So please join me now in welcoming two respected voices in broadcasting, Don Shelby and Pat Miles.
Such a nice job, Lauren. Oh,
Very kind, Lauren. Thank you.
I'm right.
That one. That one.
See, he's still bossing me around.
For years, I sat on that side. She sat on this side.
And you know, there is a more important side. That's why the candidates have to debate on which side of the podium they're on. Do you know that, though?
Yeah.
I knew you did. Well, we did think about talking about politics, and I said, no, Don, it'd be so much better to talk about death and die.
It's not the first time she and I have done this because when the book was in manuscript form, she sent it to me and I read it and I was just completely astounded by the work. Not only was the story personal and relatable, but the story that she told was done as a fine journalist. It wasn't just her opinions that she was expressing, but she reached out to some of the smartest, brightest people in the business. psychology, sociology, family, finance. And she interviewed these people with their own experiences and then was able to layer on the story of her own situation. And her husband, Bucky, great friend of mine, passed very quickly. And this is actually the essence of the story of how vicariously it affected me when thinking, my God, if I go or if Barbara goes, we don't have anything in place because we've never talked about this. We just don't have anything prepared. And so what Pat did was give me the incentive to do all of those things while we're still healthy and happy together. And now all of that is in place. And now we know who takes over what and how we have to do that. And we've had to train up on some things that were deficits for us. So I've loved Pat all of our professional lives. We came here in 1978 on the same day. And we auditioned together on the same day. And we have been friends.
This is Groundhog Day.
Yeah, it was Groundhog Day. And we have been not just friends, we've been extremely close friends, all the way down to our grandchildren. I went up to Ely and met Miles a couple of years ago, and
Clever name, right?
yeah, it is. I don't know where they got that, but I just want you to know our relationship is not a professional relationship. I love this woman.
Which is why he's here today, by the way. Thank Don for coming. Yeah, thank you, Don. Yeah, Don's been by my side for, for over half my life.
No.
Oh gosh, scary. And Don's right. I was able to talk to so many really smart people about how to avoid a lot of the mistakes that I made, a lot of newly widowed people make, because they're not informed. But what he didn't tell you was that I was lucky. The only good thing that happened to me during COVID was that people actually picked up the phone and talked to me because they had nothing else to do that year. So I got very lucky in being able to interview people really all across the country, and a lot of different people with individual stories. When I was first widowed, I went looking for information. And what I found were a lot of books written by widows about their singular experience with grief. But I didn't find a lot of practical advice. There was no sort of how to be a widow for dummies out there, which was really what I needed. And so I thought, boy, if I'm going through this, because I was married to an attorney and I was a reporter, and I had so many problems, and we were so ill prepared for the inevitability of death. And by the way, 100% of us are going to die. I know that's a shocking thing to know, but it does happen. So if we are so ill prepared for this event, then there must be other people out there who were as well and who have stories to tell that could teach us all a lot about how to plan for the day when someone doesn't come home. So I wrote more of a kind of cautionary tale book filled with stories of people and what they experienced, and then talk to experts about how to avoid those situations.
Talk about those situations. Talk about the things that were just shocking to you that, and I'll use an example. You didn't even know the code to his cell phone.
Correct.
On how to get in.
I didn't know anything.
As simple as that. I'm just saying as simple as that, because a lot of the information about the family business, about all of their finances was on his phone. Did not know, had never asked. And certainly you wouldn't ask while your spouse is lying in a bed facing possible death. Gone.
Right.
Here, so
Right.
you better give me the cell phone.
Right.
right.
You're not
You don't
thinking.
wanna do that.
You're not thinking about those things when somebody is ill, seriously ill. So that's why when Don said, you need to make sure you take care of all of these things during happy days and good times and when people are healthy. Have those conversations today, now, while everything is good. Because once things go bad, that's not what you talk about, that's not what you think about, and that's not what you do. There's a story about a woman in my book. Her husband was a doctor. And this was in 2020 during COVID. And he was in the hospital and he contracted COVID. And within 4 days, they took him to the emergency room where she was not allowed to go to the hospital or see him. So she communicated with her husband, with the nurse holding up his cell phone so they could FaceTime. He died in 2 days. She had no information about anything. And she knew she needed the information that was on a cell phone because that's where all their finances, all that financial information was. But she couldn't bring herself on his final day to ask him, and by the way, what's the code to get into your cell phone? And so she ended up having to go to court. I think it cost her, $18,000 in legal fees to try and get access to that cell phone and then to get access to the information that she needed. So one of the things I talk about in the book is leave that information somewhere. Ask yourself today, who knows what I know? And if no one else knows what you know, make sure that you put that information somewhere. And maybe you don't want to share it, so put it in a safety deposit box, but make sure you leave information about where the key is. I didn't have that information. I have a safety deposit box out there somewhere, but I have no idea where the key is. So make sure you leave that information for the people who you leave behind if you don't come home tonight. It's so incredibly important that you leave that legacy for your family and for your loved ones, because if you don't, you most likely will leave behind a real trail of tears. And that's a horrible trail to be on when you are already grieving the loss of the person you thought you couldn't live without.
Now, I want to ask you this, if you are willing to share it. How much do you think it cost you to unravel as much as you could unravel in order to get to where you were at a place where you could move forward?
I don't even like to think about that, Don. It was so much money and it was so overwhelming. You asked me, what was the most surprising thing that happened or that I came away with? The most surprising thing I learned is how money, how much money changes people, especially after someone with money passes away. And even without money. I mean, I talk in the book about people fighting over grandma's pie plate. They'll spend $10,000 in court over who should get that pie plate. And the pie plate's worth $1, but it had sentimental value and nobody left information about who grandma actually wanted that pie plate to go to, which is why I also talk in the book about leaving what I think is incredibly important, and Don can speak to this, what's called an intention letter. An intention letter is not a legal document, but it covers all those things that are not covered in wills and trusts. It covers the bracelet that your sister thinks your mom would want her to have, but that you know she would want you to have. If mom says who gets that bracelet, then there's no argument, there's no fight. There's no sibling disagreement that could turn into years of not speaking to each other. In fact, I have a friend in Scottsdale, hasn't spoken to her sister in 25 years because guess what? Her sister took the bracelet that she's sure her mother wanted her to have. If you have a cabin up north and you die and you leave it to your 2 sons, one son wants to sell it, one son wants to keep it. And they're sure dad would have wanted them to keep it, or sure dad would have wanted them to sell it. Well, if dad says what he would want, then there's no disagreement, there's no argument. I have a friend who in fact has a cabin up north, and he read my book and he said, I've written in my intention letter that if John wants to sell it to Tom, John can sell it for X amount of money, but he can never use the cabin again. He had very strong feelings about the cabin. Don's intention letter, by the way, is up to 500 pages.
Yeah.
I said, Don, this is what you call controlling from the grave. He's laughing because he's probably beyond 500
Yeah,
pages.
it's up to 700 now. I love the idea of the intention letter because it allows you, it allows the family, it allows the spouse to not have to guess, oh, what would he want or what would she want? Because it's spelled out. And so you live on a little bit. I like that idea that because when I think of death and the deaths that happened to me, I hearken back to a letter you might have seen in the documentary Civil War by Ken Burns. And it's a letter by Sullivan Ballou. He was going into battle and he knew he was probably going to die. And his wife was named Sarah, and he wrote Sarah a letter. And he said, never think of me gone. Never think of me gone. And this intention letter is a living document. So that's always there, and you can always go back and look at it and sort of sort out, well, this wasn't specifically mentioned, but this is a kind of a parallel that I can see where he or she would want this to happen or how things are going to be distributed. But that's the intention letter can be broad and fulsome about philosophy and about how you hope the children will grow up and what they will do and where they will focus and what made them proud. And it's just
Can be a legacy letter.
it's a legacy letter.
And I will tell you this, to be very honest with you, it's a difficult letter to write. And so my advice to you, and I think it's really important that you do this letter, is to just sit down and start and then just keep coming back to it. I mean, I started mine after I wrote the book and I'm still working on it. It's tough. It's tough because I kind of know I have 2 girls and I kind of know what the issues are going to be. And it's kind of like, yeah, there's going to be a fight over this. And so I just want them to know how I'm going to feel about that fight when I'm not here. But like I say, it's a tough letter to write, but just make a date with yourself to sit down and start it. Just start it and then come back to it and come back to it. And it can be a document that changes over time. But I think honestly, I think it's just as important as a will and a trust. I mean, Bucky and I had a will and a trust. And I thought we were, and I say in the books, we were set for life, but we were not set for death. And I know a lot of people find themselves in those shoes. I just figured if you have a will and a trust, everything's taken care of, right? No, not so much. Not so much. So I would encourage you, well, obviously I would encourage you to buy my book, but I would encourage you because there's really good advice in this book from really good, intelligent, smart people. So you're getting some really good advice from people who know what they're talking about. I don't and didn't. I mean, I always say I wish I'd had my book before this happened to me, which is the reason I wrote it. I really wrote it because I got mad. I got really angry. I'm like, boy, if this happened to me, and I think I'm pretty smart, and I really thought Bucky was really smart, but if this happened to me and us, wow, it's got to be happening to a lot of people. And sure enough, there were 200 people I interviewed, and there was not a person, not one, who didn't have a problem. Yeah. Not one.
I think she undersells a little bit, and of course it's a laugh line, but it's a book for dummies. It's not that. But if you were going to set out to understand algebra and you took no algebra in your life, the best book you can get is Algebra for Dummies. This book is a how-to. This is how to take apart a television set and put it back together again so it works. This is on my shelf. I refer to the book almost monthly to make sure I'm doing these things and that I'm being prepared. It's not, as we saw in the last video, where you grieve ahead of time. You're taking action ahead of time. And wouldn't we all do that if we were going to go to BWCA in a canoe? Would we not bring food? And would we not make sure we have an extra paddle? And would we make sure that we had a life vest? And would we just do the things that are common sense? But the thorniness of the sudden death or a lingering death of an individual where you have not communicated beforehand, these are things that you need to do. And this is a how-to book on avoiding the compounded pain of not only the death, but feeling absolutely lost and with nowhere to go and not sure you will trust the person who is giving you advice, because that advice may be wrong.
Which I ran into. You know, it's a cultural issue for us in this country. It really is. Death and dying is a topic nobody wants to talk about. I mean, I can remember when I was writing the book and trying to come up with a title, one of the people I talked to said, well, whatever you do, don't put the word death or dying on the title because nobody will buy it. Whatever you do, don't bring that subject up because nobody wants to talk about it. And there's a lot of truth to that. I mean, even trying to get on TV shows to promote the book, there are younger producers now, Ron, and they don't think that's their demographic. We don't want this old person coming on to talk about death and dying because that's not our demographic. Surprise, but young people also die, and I have a few in the book. So it's a cultural issue that we in this country, and I think especially baby boomers. I mean, we literally thought we were going to live forever, right? 90 was the new 40 for the baby boomers. It's laughable, but it's true. But I say in the book, you know, we prepare for everything else in our lives. We prepare for the birth of a baby. We prepare for graduation. We prepare for a wedding. We spend thousands of dollars and we get the right dress and we get the right venue and we spend all this money preparing for all these great events in our lives. And I call them the two big bookends of life. There's birth and there's death. And we prepare a lot over here for all these great things. But many of us don't prepare for this really big event that doesn't just affect us, but it affects all of the people who love you and who you love and your family and all the people you leave behind. So it's just as important to put the time and the effort and the energy and the communication into that subject as much as it is into this subject. And I think we're out of time.
Any questions?
I think they've all covered it.
Because many of you in this room have been through this problem, and you could probably add
You could be in my book.
chapters to this book. But there are people you know, young people you know, people in your family who may not have done this. To just buy this book or go to the library and get it and say, read this, do this. Because the discussion, as I discovered, which Pat was unable to discover because it didn't happen, and thus the book, as a result of having the book, I was able to sit down with my wife and we'd have an open, smiling discussion. It wasn't a dramatic discussion or it wasn't whispered. We were just dealing with facts before us. And so, okay, here's where you can find this information. This is where you can find it. Write it all down. Write it all down. And hide it if you want to, or hide it in a place that they'll remember.
Or you know where the key is.
Yeah, it doesn't happen often in our house, but then once you get that done, it's done.
Yeah, and you can always go back and change it. And I'll leave you with a final word that Bucky always used to say to my two daughters, who were his stepdaughters, when they'd come to him with a problem or asking him for advice. He would always say to them, do something hard. Do something hard. So I would say to you, if you haven't done this, do something hard. It's so important, and you will leave behind a so much better path for your family and your loved ones. So thank you guys all for coming today. Appreciate it.
I will. Oh my goodness. Thank you, Pat, and thank you, Don. I learned so much just listening to that discussion, and we'll have some of those hard conversations when I get home. And I think a lot of us learned a lot today. So thank you for your honesty and for sharing your story. It was just wonderful. Okay, now we get to start on the prizes. How fun is that? We're going to draw for the vacation package to Grandview Lodge on beautiful Gull Lake. Now, only people in this room, attendees, were eligible to win. So that means the person we pull out of this is in this room. All right, let's find out. Chris, a little help?
Where's the drum roll?
Yeah.
We forgot to.
Can we get a drum roll? Can we get a little bit of this?
Hey.
Yeah, this is a big deal.
Oh, wait, we should take a second here. We don't want to get them too excited all at once. I just wanted to say that Pat and Don, thank you so much personally. In case you scoot out of here before I get this, do that. I have some thank yous up here for you and desserts, a whole dessert tray for you, just for you. But I also wanted to let you all know, I bought Pat's book maybe a year ago and read it. And then I would also thank you for including Wings for Widows in the resources section of the book. So thank you, Pat. Okay, there we go.
All right, excellent.
Okay, all right. Just want
Grab your tickets so you know it's a good shake.
have to dig around a little bit.
All right,
All right.
only got one here. Okay, the ticket number is 64038-063. Do we have a winner here in the room? Yay! All right, congratulations. That's really exciting. It's going to be a great trip. You can visit the gift table after the luncheon to pick up your certificate. And so thank you to all of you who purchased raffle tickets today. We appreciate your support. Again, all that money goes to Wings for Widows. Now, if you were the winning bid for one of our online auction vacation packages, you have been notified about that. Congratulations to you too. And if you were the winning bid for one of our baskets, there was some good stuff back there. You can collect your item at the gift table after the program. And now, once again, Chris.
Thank you, Lauren. I hope you're all enjoying the program. Isn't Lauren doing a fantastic job? I mean, wow. Thank you so much. Hope we can get you back next year. That was great. And how about, you already mentioned, where's Mickey? I know she's here somewhere, resting back there, hopefully eating something, the cauliflower maybe, I don't know. But Mickey, thank you for playing today. Wonderful music. We really enjoyed having you. She's going to play as we wrap up as well in a few minutes. So thank you, Mickey. So again, thank you for being here, whether you're here in person or virtually. We appreciate you taking time out of your day to be with us. Your presence means the world to us. I'm going to ask Tammy Block now, the president of our board of directors, to join me. Everyone, Tammy Block. All right. You had a good front row seat there.
Yeah.
You can't turn the chair around. Yeah. Well, as you know, Wings for Widows provides crucial coaching and education programs to those who have lost their spouses. Our work is more important than ever. In fact, as Pat Miles was talking, I was thinking about, if folks would just do what her book tells you to do, we wouldn't see so many folks walk through our door just completely in shambles. What we do is put those lives back together, and so much of that could have been prevented if they just had a few extra conversations before the loss of their beloved spouse. So it's more important than ever. The demand of our services are growing year over year. However, we also find ourselves at a critical juncture. We're facing significant challenges, may have been alluded to earlier, but individual donations, which make up 80% of our annual budget, they are down by nearly 50% this year. Even with the market up, donations are down. Not quite sure why, but this is true. And despite applying for nearly 75 grants over the last 18 months since January of 2023, we've received 2. Okay. And frankly, none of them significant enough to make a difference. So the point is that revenue stream also has not been productive. And we've invested heavily in our grant writing and applying for those grants. So we've cut costs or operating as efficiently as possible, but our efforts to increase revenue haven't kept pace with the growing needs for our services. So the harsh reality is that without additional funding, we cannot serve all those who come to our door seeking help during the most challenging time of their lives.
This is where you all come in. Today, our goal, as you saw earlier and up there today, is $100,000. This funding is crucial for us to continue our mission, expand our reach, and help more widows navigate their new reality with confidence and support. I'm an estate planning attorney. For those of you that don't know, I do probate on the back end. As Pat and Dawn alluded to, if people did this work, it is the best gift they can give to their widows and widowers. But the reality is they don't.
Mm-hmm.
So I guess we should get the gorilla out of the room.
Yeah, let's do that.
If anyone is planning to write a check for $1 million, please speak up now.
Right now. And we'll just move on. Yeah.
Come on.
Come on, it's your chance. Just raise your hand.
You'll be the hero.
Okay, I guess.
All right.
Yeah.
Well,
It was
then
worth
you
a
have-
shot.
You have to keep listening to us up here.
It was
Sorry.
worth a shot. Yeah.
As you heard earlier, Alexandra Armstrong has already pledged $1,000 this year for the next 4 years. Her commitment is inspiring, and I hope it motivates you to consider how you can help us today.
We got a little ways to go. That's, let's see, that and 26, or a little over $10,000 with the raffle today so far. And we're not sure, I'm not sure yet about the online and the auctions. We don't have those numbers, but clearly we have a little work to do. I think you can all see that. We're making progress, but we need everybody's help to cross the finish line. So I hope you can join us in this crucial effort. We've got a few minutes left in this luncheon. Again, there are pledge envelopes on your table. And again, whether you can match Alexandra's multi-year commitment or make a one-time donation or pledge any amount that's meaning to you, every contribution does make a difference. And again, for those watching virtually, you can make your pledge by texting widows to 50155. Widows to 50155. And we're going to wait until we see that cross $9,000. Come on. I know we can do it. Well, there's a 10-minute delay, so maybe we better move on. So if you can give, please do. This is a fundraising luncheon. And if you can't do it now, there's plenty of ways to give after this luncheon.
Your support today isn't just a donation. It is a lifeline for someone who has lost their partner and is struggling to find their way forward. As a probate attorney, I have sat across the table holding hands with widows and widowers as they struggle just to get through even filling out an easy life insurance beneficiary form. We provide that service. It's a statement that says, you're not alone in this journey. Let's come together right now and ensure that Wings for Widows can continue to be there for those who need us most. Can we count on your support to reach this goal? And can you spread the word even after you leave this luncheon today for others to support the work that we are doing to help our widows and widowers within the community? In other cultures across the world, widows and widowers are revered. Let's do the same thing today for our widows and widowers in our country.
I don't know who writes checks anymore, but if writing checks isn't your deal. And whether there's pens on the table in case you did bring your checkbook, but you know, you can, there's other ways to give, right? I was going to mention those. Consider an endowment. And that can really be any amount, but we like the 25,000 and larger endowments. Those are, or a legacy gift, right? By adding, we heard about wills and trust, the letters, the intention letters, legacy letters. I call them love letters to your loved ones that you leave behind. It's a beautiful thing to do. It was a beautiful message. But you can certainly leave us, Wings for Widows, as a beneficiary in your will or your trust. And here's another idea. Why not pledge your RMD distribution this year, if you haven't taken it and spent it already, or next year? These are called qualified charitable distributions. And your gift to Wings for Widows avoids the tax on that distribution. So that would, otherwise be due if you took the money and ran.
Okay, final push. And I know here's the other thing too, is we do have people I know writing checks. So
Yeah.
this number is higher than what you see up here.
Mhm.
Can we add $5,000 more to our total as we stand here watching the clock tick? Is what I-
And please help yourself to desserts while you're writing those checks. And,
We
there's a lot of desserts. I
I was
hope we
gonna
don't have
say,
to take those home with us.
we should have put some alcohol in the desserts.
Oh, yeah. I asked about serving champagne, but yeah, maybe next year. Okay. Yeah. Well, I'm not sure we're going to get over that 9,000, but as Tammy said, it's actually about, there's about another, as we know, about another 4,000 on top of that. So, it is higher than that number right now. Well, I think we beat them up enough. I'm
Yeah,
not sure we're
I
gonna
think
go
it's
there.
good enough.
Yeah. So, all right, then, I think we could probably call that a win and turn it back to Lauren, if you'd like to come up, Lauren. Thank you, everyone. Thank you.
And if you are just shy and are waiting to write that $1 million check, you want to do it at home, you go ahead. But if you were inspired today, and I think so many of us were, think about this, because the giving doesn't have to just happen right now. It can happen, at home later as you do your end of the year giving that a lot of people do. So I think that that's all really important. And Chris, you took the ending here, but again, we just want to make sure to thank our sponsors today, which are so important. I want to get these right. Thank you, Chris. That's okay. I'm flipping through my notes. I don't want to get these names wrong. They're very generous. Our gold sponsors, we want to thank them. Beth Ulrich with Ulrich Real Estate, Front Burner Accounting, and Fuzzy Duck. Our silver sponsors are Wings Financial, Joe Nelson with Caldwell Banker Realty, and Hank Scherf. Our bronze sponsors, Tamara Block, attorney at law, the Bolton Group, KTIS 98.5, and Jerry Hansen. Thank you so much to all of them. How about one more final round of applause for them? And also thank you to Alexandra Armstrong, Megan Kopka, Michelle Neff Hernandez for sharing their remarks to help us better understand the challenges and financial hardships that accompany the loss of a spouse, and also the amazing work that Wings for Widows does. I'd like to thank Pat Miles and Don Shelby for their keynote today. I know we all enjoyed that and learned a lot. Thank you to Chris Bentley for founding this amazing organization, Wings for Widows. Without Chris's compassion, dedication, and leadership, none of us would be here today. This amazing organization wouldn't exist. And we wouldn't be here talking about the care and treatment and resources available to widowed men and women. So we thank you. And finally, thank you to the staff, the many volunteer coaches, and the other volunteers of Wings for Widows. They work tirelessly to advocate, to educate, to encourage, support the widowed community nationwide. Thank you for all you do. All right, as we wrap up here, just a few reminders as you prepare to lead. If you have completed a pledge envelope, please give it to the greeter, Joe Nelson, on your way out. If you were a winner today, don't forget to stop by the table, the gift table, and grab your certificate or your item. And finally, right there in back, Pat Miles will be selling and signing books shortly. So please stop by and get your signed copy. There's so much good advice in that book. I have to say, thank you so much for being here today. I have learned more than I thought I possibly could today. I've been inspired by the work this organization does and inspired by so many of you and so many of the speakers in this room. It's been just an honor and a privilege. Thank you for having me and have a wonderful afternoon.